Why do men like superheroes? There's a lot to talk about here, from the ideal hero to flawed and relatable characters. Characters that give us something to strive for, and characters that make us feel seen. But I think to start, a lot of us like superheroes because they're cool. What makes them cool, though? Well, in Tony Stark's case, everything. Genius, billionaire, playboy, philanthropist. These four words form one of the cornerstone quotes of the MCU, quickly summing up the hero, Iron Man. In the beginning, though, calling Iron Man a hero is a bit of a stretch. One of the first shots we get of him is him begging a soldier to stay with him because he's in fear for his life. Not very heroic, huh? Tony is never really a bad guy, but he definitely is like the worst possible version of a good guy. He's egotistical, he has a minor extreme god complex, he's a playboy, but also remember guys, he's still a self-titled philanthropist, and philanthropy equals good, right? Plus, I mean, he does start out as a literal arms dealer, and just because you help give weapons to the good guys doesn't mean you don't accidentally give them to the bad guys too, which is exactly what he learns in that ambush I just mentioned. But why do we like Iron Man then? Because Tony Stark becomes the embodiment of an ideal man. I grew up alongside the release of the MCU. I remember renting Iron Man at Blockbuster and seeing Iron Man 2 in theaters. And in a way, Tony Stark grew up alongside me. Tony's whole journey is from a man who has everything but nothing to a man who truly does have everything. When he's in that cave with nothing but a box of scraps, he could die and maybe some people would miss him, but he wouldn't have a family who mourns him. I was rewatching the first Iron Man, and there's a scene where Rhodey and Tony are talking, and Rhodey's talking about how he knows that all the guys in uniform are always watching his back, and he's watching theirs in return. And it hit me. Tony, while hammered, mind you, says that he doesn't have that. Tony is sort of a loner in the beginning, which is weird because now that we've seen his journey conclude, we can't imagine him without the Avengers, without a team who has his back. By the end of his arc in Avengers Endgame, he truly does have everything that a man could desire. He has a family, friends, knowledge, money, power, charisma, morals he stands by, and he's even willing to truly self-sacrifice for the world. He also fly and shoot lasers, which is pretty cool. Characters like Iron Man resonate with us because we see the full journey. His journey mirrors a lot of our own, yet I still think he's more something to strive for than someone to relate to. When we talk about pure coolness factor, it's hard to beat Tony Stark. But we also like superheroes because we desire mastery. A lot of us want to become masters of a craft, and I'd say some of us, even most of us, have this innate competitive drive. Tony is already an artist in the truest sense of the word when we meet him, having mastered his craft to the point that he built his first suit in a cave
with a box of scraps!
And it doesn't stop there. He works constantly to iterate on his designs and refine them or adapt them for different scenarios. He's constantly honing his craft. We see that in Iron Man 3 when we get to see his awesome Hall of Armors thingy over here. Yeah, that stuff is awesome. Mastering a psychological art like engineering is awesome, and frankly, it's way above my math skills. But we can't forget about mastery when it comes to martial arts. That's something that Tony lacks, but there's one martial artist that comes to mind when you think superhero: Batman. Master of 127 martial art styles. Hey, yeah, are we sure he's human? Yeah? Okay. Master detective, master of stealth, mastery of his own fear.
Ooh.
The Dark Knight is mastery, and we love him for it. Bruce Wayne has dedicated himself to the cowl more so than any other popular hero, taking up his crusade night after night to try to make sure that the trauma he experienced doesn't occur again. As a viewer or reader, we understand that this is frankly useless. Gotham City is so heavily infested by crime and corruption, it makes literally any other city you want to put here look like a Disney movie. Batman does have an impact though, both for better and for worse. He scares away all the small-time criminals and easily stops them while also serving as a challenge for the true maniacs in Gotham. A reason for them to continue what they do and strike back against the symbol that is the Bat. We love superheroes because of their villains too, but I can make a whole video about that one. I want to focus on mastery. Since Bruce has dedicated himself to mastering his craft, he's usually the apex predator in Gotham. In the same time that Tony Stark would have spent partying and playing around, which I can't blame him, I would too if I had that kind of money, Bruce was honing his skills in order to become a force of nature. This discipline to attain mastery is something that's fairly common across a lot of our favorite characters and character archetypes, since it's something that a lot of the people we see throughout the real world who inspire us seem to have in one way or another. Batman isn't perfect though, especially because it's vengeance that drives him. And at times, That's who we wish we could be too. We live in a civilized society. We can't lash out at who or what has hurt us in the way Batman can. Batman's imperfection in this way is precisely why he has the no-kill rule. Because he's scared he wouldn't be able to turn back. And he doesn't want to be like his parents' killer. And that's part of why I like Dick better.
What did he say?
Nightwing also represents mastery, but without the darkness that Batman carries. If you don't know, because frankly I doubt your average MCU fan would, Nightwing is the first Robin, Dick Grayson, after he goes off on his own. Nightwing is openly who Batman wishes he was. He has incredible mastery and combat ability, being able to spar toe-to-toe with Batman and sometimes win. He's a master acrobat, and that's pretty neat. And he's also a lot more personable than Batman. His relationship with the Titans and the rest of the Bat family is peak fiction. Growing up, I played the Arkham games, and I read Batman comics. I wanted to be like him. But now that I'm older, I want to be Nightwing. Nightwing isn't brooding, he smiles, while also understanding the need to be serious and when he needs to lock in. Journey to Mastery is hard and grueling and it tests you, but hopefully by the end of it, we can be like Nightwing. Nightwing also in a way deals with the pressure of being an older sibling and the eldest son, which is something that I personally relate to, but I'll leave that out of the video because that's not a universal male experience. Nightwing and Batman though are not unstoppable forces, which is why the Bat family exists in the first place. But I think a lot of us like superheroes because we wish we could feel unstoppable. We wish we could feel... Invincible is a relatively new kid on the mainstream block, but man, Mark Grayson has got to be one of my favorite examples of the relatable superhero. And what I mainly want to focus on here is the pressure Mark feels early on to live up to his dad. Anime series only, by the way. I'm keeping spoilers as minimum as I can, but it is Invincible, so... they're gonna be here. Mark grows up with the strongest superhero in the world as a father, an infallible symbol of strength and success and influence. Omni-Man is quite literally a world-shattering force, and Mark was always told growing up that when his powers come in, he can be just like his dad. Also, it'll let him fly, which is awesome. Who does not want to be able to fly? I mean,
a few moments later.
He's not warned that he's gonna have to practice with his powers or be patient. He's just eager to get them because to him, it'll let him live up to his hero, something that all men, to some degree or another, want to do. In the 10 to 15 minutes of the first episode of Invincible, before Mark gets his powers, he's a perfect representation of how we view our parents or whoever raised us when we were kids. He doesn't see the flaws his dad carries. In this case, because the facade hasn't fallen yet. Omni-Man doesn't show the incredible amounts of inner turmoil inside Nolan to anyone, until Mark gets his powers and becomes invincible. Yeah, you thought I was gonna do the title card bit again there, huh? What am I? Unoriginal? As Invincible's story progresses, we see Omni-Man train his son in an aggressive manner that Mark hasn't seen before. He hurts him, and Mark has to come to terms that he has a long way to go before he can be his father. A lesson anyone who's watched season 1 knows. He learned the hard way. His dad left him something to think about. This core part of Invincible's character arc really resonates with me because I think this pressure to live up to our dad is something a lot of us deal with. I certainly do. And it doesn't have to be your dad. It can be a father figure, older brother, mentor, ancestor even. Whoever it is for you, it's hard to deal with, isn't it? That's because we're often chasing an idea, something we think this figure we want to be is, not the actual person. Even if we realize that though, things stay difficult. After Nolan snaps and forces Invincible to realize he's not who he thinks he is and that he isn't on his level, Mark encounters another thing that I think makes us love this superhero. His accurate depiction of insecurity and self-doubt. He's not his dad. Will he ever be enough? Can he do it? Even if he works and works and works, can he still live up to what he's always wanted to be? Once Omni-Man leaves, Invincible is the strongest hero in the world, but he still doubts himself. Part of it is he's always holding back so he doesn't hurt anybody, but he loses a lot because of that. And this just keeps compounding this feeling of inadequacy. Him dating Amber also didn't help because despite him saving the world, he still felt like he wasn't giving his girlfriend enough attention, and that's never a good feeling. Seeing this feeling of worrying that he'll never be enough explored and represented on screen made me feel seen. We can't talk about these issues because it appears weak. Society will laugh at you for it. But in fiction, it can be explored. And recently, characters like Invincible explore this feeling in a way that is really effective. It's done in such a subtle way and masked with action so that we don't get bored. But we are forced to confront that it exists. Men everywhere, even if they pretend they don't, experience this pressure and this shitty feeling. This is true across history, and it's even true across the Spider-Verse. I'm talking about Miles Morales because between the two most recent adaptations of both Peter and Miles, I relate to Miles more. Miles' entire story arc is about him becoming Spider-Man even though he wasn't supposed to. That's an uncomfortable conversation, being convinced you're meant to be doing something, but the world around you is telling you you're delusional. It's what you hear all the time if you want to do YouTube or start a business or play sports. It gets lonely putting in the hours when everyone thinks you're crazy. And Miles represents that perfectly. He's Spider-Man, a hero saving countless lives, but his grades dropped, so his parents are mad. He can't tell them because he's worried for their safety. And what's worse is, what if they're disappointed? He thinks he should be better. He should be like Peter Parker. But he's not Peter Parker. This sense of isolation that comes with being a superhero is something that a lot of men, especially the comic book and manga audiences here in the West, have had to go through. I'm sure if you're young, you've heard this a million times, but nerd stuff wasn't always cool. My generation was the last where anime and manga weren't cool to watch, and the first where Star Wars and superheroes were. I think about Miles a lot because I see myself in him like I know a lot of us do. His journey throughout the movies isn't easy, but he still decides, even if almost all of the other Spider-Men in the multiverse tell him he can't, that he will. He's gonna do his own thing, and it's fine because he has a few friends who believe in him. The way Miles is determined to choose his own fate, his own path, is why we love him. But when choosing your own fate, you have to remember that with great power comes great responsibility. And responsibility is a core part of being a man. Peter Parker embodies this mantra. I'm discussing Toby Spidey, by the way. It's hard to do the right thing. It's easy to say, screw everyone else, I'll do what's best for me. I'm the important one. But that's not fulfilling. Peter Parker always makes the choice to fulfill his duty. He has powers that make him special, but that doesn't mean he's better than someone else. If he's forced to choose between doing his job as Spider-Man or doing something that makes him happy, he chooses to be Spider-Man, to save lives. I don't want to spend too much time on him because it's been so long since I saw the movies and I want to do him justice. So instead, let's round us out by talking about the superhero, Superman. Why do men like Superman? Superman's a symbol that means everything is gonna be okay. Isn't he the opposite of relatable? He can't be cool. He's too nice. He's unstoppable. He's never in danger. Shut up. Men like Superman because he is relatable, despite being unstoppable. Men like Superman because while he's something to strive for, he's also someone who has the same issues a lot of us have. In that way, he's similar to Peter Parker. Actually, he's like an amplified Peter Parker. Superman is fast enough to be anywhere that needs him. He has the responsibility to choose when and where and who he saves. But that's also a curse because he can't be everywhere at once. And he also has to live as Clark at times. He wants to live as Clark. But balancing Superman and Clark is hard when you want to do both. Just like how balancing home and work life can be hard for a lot of men. Superman feels like an outsider. His powers make him feel lonely, so living as Clark, living as a normal person, is comforting to him. Superman's whole point as a character is to be a representation of the best of humanity. Just because he's Kryptonian doesn't mean he isn't human. That's why men love Superman. That's why men love superheroes. Okay, last one, but I almost forgot to talk about My Hero Academia. I was going to talk about Deku originally, but instead I'm going to talk about All Might because Deku would just be me repeating the Miles section. Major spoilers, and if you want, you can pretend the video's over because there's basically already an outro, but if you're still here, like, subscribe, and every kid in My Hero Academia wants to be All Might. The same way every kid in our world wants to be their favorite superhero. And All Might does everything with a smile and believes that anyone can be a hero. He's proof of that. All Might is one of my favorite superheroes because he goes from being powerless to being the strongest hero in the world to powerless again. But despite losing his powers and staring death in the face, he says, nah, adapt and overcome. So he gets an awesome suit, an awesome car, and does what he needs to anyway. Cause he's cool. All Might is a character who does what is right even when he's powerless to act, as with a lot of superheroes. But even when he has lost his powers and he's just a guy, he still puts his life on the line for the sake of others. All Might is a true hero, and I would feel like this video is incomplete without him. But that's the video. I know Cap wasn't here. He's my favorite Avenger. Don't get it twisted, but he didn't fit the video. So if you want to see a part 2, let me know. But next script is already halfway done, so look forward to that soon. Call it out, boys. Lettuce eating walrus. Bye.